Welcome on Texas Football. Good Saturday morning to you. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Brooks Austin, aka the Film Guy. He's got his own YouTube channel. Talks about different players and teams around the country. Make sure you check that out on YouTube, the Film Guy. Brooks, welcome in. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no doubt, Bobby. I always like coming on here and talking some Texas Longhorns with you, brother.
All right, yeah, let's do it a little bit. This episode is sponsored by our friends over at Advanced Pain Care, Dr. Mark Malone. We'll talk to you more about them in a little bit. Hey, Brooks, you did a segment on Steve Sarkisian 3 or 4 months ago that we talked to you about quite at length on one of our previous shows. But I wanted to revisit that. And then I know you've been busy this offseason looking at other teams around the SEC. You also covered Georgia at times. I want to talk Longhorns, obviously play them this coming year. I want to talk to you about all of that, if you don't mind, and we'll take about 15, 20 minutes here and dish it up. Let's start with Sarkisian because I think that it's important for Texas fans to understand what they do and don't have with Steve Sarkisian in some ways. Like, he is really, really bright offensively, but he's not, he's not the only guy that can do it, and he's not a magic maker. I mean, it does take players. What does Texas have, in your opinion, with Steve Sarkisian as an offensive coach?
I think the more and more I study Sarkisian, the more and more fascinated I am with how complex he can be while being simplistic in his own nature. What do I mean by that, right? What Texas does to Texas seems very simplistic, right? We are running the same concepts over and over again. We might be dressing them up slightly different every new time we get to that same concept. So for Texas, that seems very similar to one another, right? The system in and of itself just has new wrinkles every so often. But to a defensive team, right, when you're trying to stop Texas, it seems like you're having to stop all of this complexity, right? All this pre-snap motion, all this window dressing, I believe would be the term that Sarkisian would use. That's what's been most impressive to me. The more and more you study them, to them it seems simple. To you as a defense, you feel like you're playing a fast-paced offense because things are getting thrown at you right at the last second before the ball is snapped. To me, that's the most impressive thing about Sark. And on top of that, if he finds a void in what you're doing, he's going to attack it immediately. Some coordinators wait to get to it. Some coordinators develop, window dressing to get to the explosive, right? No. As soon as Sarkisian sees it, whatever his game plan is that day, he's going to go hunt that new void that he's found, and he's going to do it immediately and do it until you stop it. That's something I've respected most about what Sark's always done. That dates back to Texas. That dates back to Alabama, even his time with the Atlanta Falcons.
All right, thanks for that. I appreciate it, Brooks. Hey, second question. I think we all understand that he does try to keep it simple at the same time, show a defense various looks. What is he good at, though, beyond that? Like, is there something that Sark we talk about the Sark screen, which is essentially a throwback screen. Are there other elements of his game that you think that coaches try to emulate or imitate at some level that he's so good at?
So, I mean, his offensive system to me is very akin to like what Shanahan does in the pro balls. Like we're wide zone, off play action, like stuff like that. So the system in and of itself mimics others. I think what Sark does is what I was alluding to just a second ago. Those in-game adjustments, the ability to hunt and kill you now in the middle of a game because you've exposed yourself somewhere. That's the unique gift that Sark has that a lot of other coordinators don't. I feel like Kiffin has this as well because they identify and understand defense as a whole, not just what I need to do offensively. They know where you're weak. They know where you're compromised, and they seek to attack that early and often. I think to me, that in-game adjustment, the ability to know where the defense is vulnerable and then how to attack that, I think that's what's one of Sark's biggest gifts. It's not just designing the offense, or in this case for Texas nowadays, recruiting at the highest level to have great players to implement and execute your offense.
Speaking of great players, we've been talking about it on Texas Football for months, okay, ever since they lost Ohio State, right? What's Texas's offense going to look like with Arch Manning? What are the differences that we'll see with Sark, with Manning, as opposed to yours? Your take on that conversation.
So I think everyone's initial reaction or initial thought process would be his athleticism, right? Using his legs, all that good stuff. And I'm I'm with you to an extent, but it's a lot easier to use Arch Manning's legs when we have Quinn Ewers as a starter. It's not so as easy to use Arch Manning's legs when he is the starter, if that makes sense. But my initial thought process when I think about where Arch might improve this offense, and Texas fans will know this ad nauseum, it's the deep game passing accuracy. Like, Quinn just struggled with it. Struggled with it for the entire time at Texas. There were spurts where he was good at it, but driving the ball down the field consistently and accurately was a drastic flaw, in my opinion, in Quinn Ewers' game. I don't think it's going to be that with Arch. I think that 25-plus range in this offense got a drastic increase. And when you're good in that deep game passing accuracy, it opens up all that other stuff that Texas kind of relied upon over the last couple of years. Their yards per attempt at Texas dropped drastically over the last 2 or 3 years with Quinn at quarterback because of that, right? We're not able to drive the ball down the field, so we're starting to get to some of that screen game you alluded to, not just those throwback screens, right? But some of those immediate now screens is what we call them, right? Give the ball to the wide receiver now, let him do work out in space. You're still going to do some of that, but I think you're going to see drastic improvements in your deep game passing attack, which that's what Texas explosive offense, as a door comes into the screen right now, that's what explosive Texas offense really is predicated about, right? Taking those deep shots off play action.
That is the question, right? Is for a Texas fan, they want to know what should we expect? Given the deep ball, we should expect more quick hitting offense from Texas, more big plays overall.
Yeah, that's what I expect to see more of, more consistent, explosive passing down the field from Texas this year, which it might open up more explosives underneath, right? Because defenses are now backing off. It's a give and take game. And when you're an explosive deep thrower and you have the ability to do that, that's the hardest thing for a defense to take away. Because once we take that away, we open ourselves up in 90% of the field.
Okay, I want to talk to you next, if you don't mind, Brooks, about the SEC as a whole and what you're seeing this offseason in your film study, et cetera. First, I want to say thank you to one of our key sponsors, Advanced Pain Care there in Austin, 512-244-4272. That's 244-4272. They want to say this.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
That's 244-4272, area code 512. Hey, Brooks, I got to ask you, who do you see as the teams based on your study in the SEC that need to be accounted for this year in the SEC? I know it's a broad term.
Yeah.
But who are some of the teams that you're looking at saying, they could be an issue if they get things right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird era of college football, Bobby. I feel like we're talking on our show all offseason about just how far and open the landscape of college football is. I feel like there are 9 or 10 teams that are championship caliber this year across college football, but all of them have holes. All of them have questions. Some of them, there's flaws in every single roster, and it's the same thing in the SEC. But in terms of teams that I think have a chance to make a go at it this year, it's the usual bunch for the most part. It's Georgia, it's Texas, it's Alabama, it's LSU. I think South Carolina is kind of a sneaky one for me because of what I expect to be a tremendous growth year for Lenoris Sellers. That guy had tremendous strides in his game last year on tape, and just the 11 or 12 games he has had as a starter. And I expect to see even more growth from one of the most explosive football players in college football. But man, apart from South Carolina, to me, it's the same group of football teams. It's Texas, it's Georgia, it's Alabama, and it's LSU.
I got to ask you this. Florida under DJ Lagway, they seem to show some positive things. Texas A&M, Mike Elko is barking a little bit right now, saying he has 10 to 12 draftable players coming out next year. That's legitimate. I mean, if that's the number, that's pretty strong. You see any up and coming teams like the Aggies, like the Gators, maybe? What do you think of Tennessee too? I mean, they just tough in a tough situation given their quarterback situation?
I think Tennessee was going to be in a tough situation even with Nico. Honestly, that was a 2,600-yard passer that didn't have many wide receiver weapons last year, that wasn't going to have many wide receiver weapons this year at Tennessee. They were going to lean on a run game and defense again. I think they're going to do the same thing this year, even with, Joey Aguilar now as the quarterback. You mentioned Florida, man. Everyone knows about the schedule. The schedule is what the schedule is, but I didn't love to hear that they gave up damn near 800 yards of total offense in their spring game. I mean, I know it's a spring game. I know, but we have no defense. We have nothing at all. Third stringers are rushing for 225 yards on 10 carries. Whoa. That was a lot. I do like Lagway. I do like the wide receivers. I do like Jaden Ball, the running back. I thought they had really good offensive lines for several years over and over again at Florida. For me, it's a defensive question down there this year, and obviously the schedule. I know this is a Texas podcast. I don't know how good Oklahoma's going to be this year, but they're damn sure going to be interesting. You bring Ben Arbuckle over from Wazoo. You bring Mateer over from Wazoo as well. I think pairing the coordinator and the expensive transfer quarterback is ideal. It paid dividends for Vandy last year to Vandy dividends standards. I don't expect this to pay dividends at Oklahoma to the 10-win, 11-win standards that the Sooners normally hold themselves to. But I do think it's going to be fun as hell to watch. There's no doubt about that.
You like Mateer? I mean, Greg McElroy said he's maybe the best quarterback in the SEC.
I like college. I like college football quarterback Mateer. I think it's fun. I think it's fun. There's people that do this might be Cam Ward. I don't do that. I think there's a reason that John Mateer has been a sub 60% completion percentage, because there are major mechanical flaws. There are things that he does mechanically that make you say, this guy doesn't care about doing the right things from the position. He just wants to play football. And that's great. He's going to win games playing football. But there's no, for me, there's no safe projection into the NFL right now for Mateer from what he does from his lower body standpoint. There's just no tying the feet to the eyes. I know this is a nerdy thing to be talking about right now on a podcast because I'm a film guy. But when you watch him, there's not, he's throwing 56% completion percentage because they're driving the ball down the field. No, he's missing throws quite often because he's just not disciplined with his mechanics.
Is he – but he makes OU dangerous is what you're saying, basically.
Oh, yeah. There's a level of unpredictability with them. I'm saying they're going to be fun. But there's also this, Washington State had a third-round draft pick at wide receiver last year. Does Oklahoma have a third-round draft pick at wide receiver right now? I don't think so. So there's a legitimate argument to say that Washington State had better receivers last year than Oklahoma does this year. That's crazy to think about, but it is the reality of the situation. So, but Mateer in and of himself is going to be really fun. It's going to be boom or bust, in my opinion, in the SEC.
Interesting. I think Mike Elko and A&M, they've got guys that are rip-roaring ready to go too. I mean, he had a good year in the transfer portal, he thinks, adding to another year of Marcel Reed, a couple of running backs returning. You mentioned LSU. Are they good enough to get their defense together? Because it wasn't their offense that I thought really sputtered. It was a defense that just hasn't – I mean, they haven't played it since Brian Kelly's showed up in Baton Rouge.
Bobby, I know you Longhorns fans are a little new to this SEC stuff, but you ain't new to LSU football. How about this one for you? For the first time in 25 years, LSU has gone 4 straight NFL draft cycles without a top 90 defensive back draft pick. Can you believe that? The LSU Tigers don't have NFL high caliber defensive backs. What? And it's the same thing I think this year. Now, they got a young freshman out there. I think his name's DJ Pickett. That's going to be the next one. He's an unscrew-upable 5-star corner and probably is going to play this year for them. But I'm with you. The defense is not LSU standard. They did not have NFL or LSU or even SEC caliber interior defensive line play last year. They had a quality edge rusher, but they had a quality edge rusher. So I'm with you. There are some defensive concerns. But like I said, man, I can poke holes in a lot of rosters in the SEC. I think it's just going to be about who survives this year.
All right. Speaking with Brooks Austin, the film guy on YouTube, also has a podcast as well. Hey, Brooks, last question I wanted to leave you with is Georgia. Texas lost twice to Georgia, second time in overtime down there in Atlanta. The question I have for you is Gunnar Stockton good enough to win the conference at Georgia, in your opinion?
So it's very similar to the Mateer conversation for me in terms of like he's going to be a really good college quarterback. I don't know how he projects to the NFL, but we don't have to be a first-round NFL projection to be a great college quarterback. You Longhorn fans know a guy by the name of Colt McCoy. He was pretty damn good, and everybody knew this wasn't going to be a top 32 overall pick, and everybody was okay with it because he won football games in college. I think it's the same thing with Gunner, and I think you saw some of that in that Texas football game. When you turn that film on, there are backside edge defenders by the name of Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill standing flat-footed on run plays because they don't know if the quarterback's going to keep the ball out of the backfield. This is something that 90% of college football teams force the defense to do. The 10% of those college football teams are teams that have immobile quarterbacks, which is what Carson Beck, for the most part, was. He can move, he can extend plays, but they weren't designing quarterback runs for Carson Beck. So backside edge defenders were able to flow freely to the football, and it really hurt their run game over the years at Georgia during his time as a starting quarterback because they couldn't just blow people off the ball the last couple of years at the offensive line position. So I think with a combination of Gunner's legs being at least a portion of the offense, this is not a freak athlete that's going to make 70-yard runs, but he can extend drives and he can make plays with his legs. I think that's going to help out this offense. And additionally, I know it's always been a promise thing for Georgia wide receivers. Like they always have promising prospects at the position. It's about whether or not they produce. They have a promising group of wide receivers, much more promising than last year, right? They brought in Noah Thomas from A&M, brought in Zachariah Branch from USC. They should invigorate some life into that wide receiver core.
They're going to be better on defense next year or as good as, or they take a step back. A lot of people think Kirby's got a lot of talent, but I mean, the NFL has been a drag on them. Yeah. They have certainly put them in the NFL. Where does Georgia's defense look like next year?
I mean, if you look at if you're a box score scouter, if you just look at advanced stats or analytics or whatever, they took the step back last year. I think for the first time since 2017, they were outside the top 35 in total defensive metrics. So
it didn't feel that way. It did not feel that way when they came to. It did not feel that way, Brooks, when they came to Austin.
Yeah, well, I felt like now they had Georgia football players, but I felt like Georgia's defensive staff put out somewhat of a blueprint in trying to stop Texas, which is get into a 50 front and mix the coverage in the back end. Vandy tried to do the same exact defensive schematics the next week, but they had Vandy football players, so it just didn't work out like it did against Georgia. But if you go watch that Georgia-Texas game, Georgia had a very specific game plan for how to stop Texas's offense, and they did a very good job at it. So I don't think you're going to see anything different when y'all face off this year. You're going to get a 50 front defense from Georgia. I think I would run it at you again. It's what it most limits your wide zone defense or your wide zone run game attack. And if we neutralize wide zone run game attack, we neutralize your play action. That was the whole game plan. But to answer your overall question, they're going to be Georgia on defense as long as Glenn Schumann is there, as long as Kirby Smart's there, as long as they recruit in the top 5 annually. They're going to be Georgia on defense, just like Texas is going to be Texas from a talent standpoint moving forward.
Last question for you before I let you go here, Brooks. How good do you think Arch Manning's going to be this year?
I'm a buyer, dude. Like I'm one of these skeptics. Like I want to be a hater by nature. I don't know what that is about me. I want to be a skeptic. I want to say, nah, that guy ain't what you telling me he's gonna be. But I'm a believer. I am a believer in a 6'3", 225-pound athlete that is a 4.65 runner, I would estimate, okay, and has all of the physical tools in the world at the quarterback position. He's as physically gifted as any player not named DJ Lagway in college football. And, oh, by the way, his last name's Manning. And I'm not one of those people who's just like, oh, he's a Manning, so he's got to be good. No. Why is he a good? Because he's a Manning? Well, he's been around high levels of football conversation since birth. This guy's been talking football at a high-level calculus AP class level since he was an 8-year-old. And that matters when it comes to how quickly do you process, right? How quickly do you see the field? How quickly do you go through your reads? Do you make smart decisions? And when you turn the tape on last year of Arch Manning, I know it was against UTSA. I know it was, I think, ULM Monroe. I know it was against Mississippi State. But I watched a football player that was playing on time. His eyes were going to the right spot. He was making good, sound decisions, apart from a couple of freshman mistakes that we expect, guys in their first time experience to really make. But no, I'm a buyer. Like I said, I wanted to do he's playing Timmy's and Tyler's in New Orleans private school football. I wanted to do it. But when you see the college tape, I don't think there's any denying that kid's skill set.
Gotcha. All right. That's going to do it for our Saturday conversation. Brooks, hopefully you'll come on more during the season. And as we preview the season coming up as well, that's Brooks Austin, the film guy. Check out his podcast and video on YouTube as well. Brooks, thank you so much, bud. You have a good weekend with you and yours, man.
No doubt, Bobby. You too.
All right. Hook 'em.